Okay, then I'll go ahead and start out. This is Paul Anderson, Vice Chair for Western Regional Water Commission. And I'll go ahead and call for a roll call, please.
Claire Andriola, present. Christopher Dare. Susan Severs. Paul
I'm here.
Susan is in my office with me.
Okay, thank you. Paul Anderson.
Here.
Naomi Durr. Mary Luz Garcia.
Here.
Jenny Breckus. Alexis Hill.
Here.
Donald Abbott.
I'm in the second floor trying to go up. Like, if anyone can help me, that'd be cool.
This is Commissioner Whitmer for the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. I'd like to have a roll call, please.
Danielle Henderson.
Here.
Michael Whitmer.
Present.
Bill Howe.
Here.
Michael Drinkwater.
Here.
John Enlow.
Here.
John Flansburgh. Mylan Nugayan. Casey Mincer.
Here.
Chris Nelson.
Here.
Dave Solero.
Here.
Mervyn Wright. Cara Steelan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And so item number 2 is Pledge of Allegiance, but we don't happen to have a flag.
We actually, Mr. Chairman, we need to have the, we did vote, right?
Yeah, I have to read a statement real
Oh,
quick.
okay.
Sorry. Alternate, you can join the meeting via telephone only by dialing 1-669-444-9171, entering the meeting ID and pressing pound. Please mute and unmute phones by dialing *6. The public may sign up to speak during the public comment period or on a specific agenda item in person by completing a public comment information request to speak card and submitting it to the clerk, or virtually by raising the virtual hand icon in the Zoom platform, or if attending by phone, dialing *9 to notify the clerk. Note, dialing *9 on the phone will both raise a virtual hand and lower it.
Flag off. Thank you. And so item number 2 is actually a Pledge of Allegiance, and I guess there is one out of the window that we have here. So do you guys want to go ahead and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Enlow, would you mind leading us, please? Do that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 3, public comment. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. And if we could let the record show, I think they're seeing this. Okay. If you could let the record show that member Donald Abbott is here as well. All right, no public comment. Then we'll move on to item number 4, approval of the agenda. And we'll start with WRWC agenda. Do we have any changes that need to be made, or do we have a motion to approve? We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you.
Commissioner Whitmer for the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. Approval of the agenda. Do I have any discussion on the agenda?
Move to approve, that's the.
Here a second, please. Second. All those in favor say aye. Second.
Aye.
Opposed? And I will state, reiterate that if you make a motion or a second, that you state your name so we can get a good transcript out of it.
Okay, move on to item
Number 5.
Item number
The
5.
Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. Approval of the minutes from October 4. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve, Solero.
Second, Enlow. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go back over to the Western Regional Water.
Thank you. So item number 6, approval of minutes from the October 18, 2023 Western Regional Water Commission meeting. Any changes that need to be made, or is everyone okay with that?
Did we get them?
Were they minutes? They were in the.
They were late
Packet.
and they were posted late, so we apologize.
Okay, I just didn't see.
They should be in the current packet or in your email.
Sorry, all good.
Are you okay with that, or?
I will be.
Okay, then in that case, do I have a motion?
Second.
Help.
Abbott.
The motion was made by member Hill, second by Abbott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 7, action presentation discussion, possible direction to staff for approval of a scope of work and funding not to exceed $124,698,000 from the Regional Water Management Fund for a professional services agreement with Stantec, excuse me, for the Cold Springs Water Balance Project. Ms. Rigdon.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm gonna give the. WRWC item 5. Okay. So members of the commission, Kim Rigdon for the record. I just wanted to give a brief introduction before Director Skid does his presentation on the North Valley Regional Water Balance scope over Cold Spring. I just wanted to get some background to, since we have both commissions here, the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission is familiar with this scope of work and project. The project was identified in the, as a reminder, was identified in the Comprehensive Regional Water Management Plan that the WRWC approved back in 2022, October of 2022. And all the projects that we do are an implementation of that regional water management plans. The Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission also prioritized this project in our fiscal year 24 party setting workshop last year. And the WRWC subsequently then approved the budget, and we promised to bring the scope of work and the project before you once we got that nailed down. So the Regional Water Management Fund has sufficient funds. It's been approved in the budget. I just wanted to make sure that as you're listening to the project and get a better understanding of Director Smith's direction of the project, that you have that background for. Okay, so Director Smith is with Washoe County Water Utility. I cannot speak today. I'm sorry, I've been so flustered with the protocol of the meeting and getting everything done. I'm like blurting out. Director Smith is with Washoe County Utilities, and he's here to present the Cold Springs Water Balance Project.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, for the record, Wayne Smith. So I've got a brief presentation to kind of step through you real quick. Certainly want to answer any questions that you might have.
It's kind of up on the screen there. Maybe
So,
next slide.
So really what, and thank you, Kim, for kind of setting the stage. This is really a continuation of a lot of good work that's been done, but there is still a lot more good work to be done within the Cold Springs area. So Cold Springs represents, is there any way to? Working on her screen. So she's got to go. Cold Springs represents, or really is a great place for us to look at this interaction between groundwater and surface water. Remember, it's a closed hydro basin, right? We've got existing development within this area. We've got a large project that's planned, a large residential project that's planned for this area. We have an existing water purveyor. We have an importation component. We have effluent management as part of Washoe County's utility. We have a wastewater treatment facility within the Cold Springs closed basin. With development pressures, questions that come along with that, with the water demands and allocation of that water, with even questions about basin yield. You know, these things are all questions that we ask, and really as responsible utilities and agencies planning the future of growth, we need to have the best answers possible, right? So part of what this project really does is represent that need to identify and gain that knowledge. There's been some preliminary work that's been done, and that preliminary work kind of sets the stage now for this scope of work. So the ask today is for $124,698 for Stantec to take us to that next place, to do this additional work to build these pieces. And yes, I'm kind of dancing around waiting for the slide.
Thank you.
Well, the next slide that I would show you focuses on the scope of work. So as I mentioned, with this need for us regionally to gain more information and understanding, the scope of work reflects that. So I'll read you off a few of the key pieces. So we're going to look at all the work that's been done. I mentioned that there has been previous work done. So this is part of the scope, is to take that existing data sets, that conceptual water balance model, and apply that information that we've already developed, and then to link that to both create and then link that to a surface and groundwater flow model. With that model, that ground and surface water flow model, then we can start to run scenarios. What happens when we import this amount of water? What happens if we develop a purple pipe system for the use of reclaimed water instead of potable water for irrigation? What happens if we export water? What happens if we see a long dry period, or conversely a long duration of a wet period? These models, linking these models together, will help us understand through those scenario runs what outcomes and what direction we might need to go. Now, of course, any of these types of analyses, we're focused on water quality, right? So there is a water quality component associated with this. What's going on with the septic systems, irrigation recharge, mobilization of existing nitrate in the ground, those types of things that are important for water purveyors and wastewater purveyors and developers, quite honestly, as well. And then out of all of that, we want to be able to develop options, mitigation options. I mentioned kind of some of the previous work, and this is by no means the comprehensive list. For instance, and I'm pointing at John down here, Tumwa did an extensive study of Bedell Flat to understand what opportunities might be for the management of effluent from Washoe County's Cold Springs Reclamation Facility and what that might look like. So there was a study to see about exportation of water that would be brought into the basin. We've been doing, Dr. Teal, formerly Perry, did a nutrient loading analysis within the fence, so to speak, at the Cold Springs Water Reclamation Facility to understand, as we treat that water and we put that treated water into the ribs, the rapid infiltration basins, what happens with the nutrients and the impacts to the groundwater. Of course, we continue to do facility planning work. Our last comprehensive facility plan for Cold Springs was 2017. We budgeted for the next update, so that is within this next calendar year. And part of there was a question about the rapid infiltration basins at the Cold Springs facility, what actual capacity those ribs had. So we worked with Newfields, did some infiltration testing there, and then we also hired a consultant to take that physical data and look at what our ability to manage upland under current scenarios are. So there's been a lot of work that's been done within the basin. There's still more work to be done. That's what the request for us to you today is to fund that next phase of work with Stantec to develop that interlinked ground and surface water model to work collaboratively with all of us. This is not, I might be sitting here as Washoe County, but I'm really sitting here as just one of the regional partners in what we do. So this certainly involves certainly involves Tumwa as a water purveyor, certainly involves all the other regional groups that look and oversee development. So I think this is the next step in a very logical approach to help us gain more information about this closed basin. And I'd be remiss to not close and say that this information that we're developing within Cold Springs, this approach, these models, our intent is to be able to use this within other closed basins to help us answer questions and make good decisions or the best decisions possible in those other areas as well. Sorry, I didn't have the PowerPoint to show you, but you might have it by paper. Perfect. Thank you. Anything that I can help clarify?
Thank you. Commissioner Whitmer, there any, say, third-party oversight on the model?
So
Thinking of, Tumwa, they have an expert. on it.
Mike, I appreciate that very much because certainly we've been in discussions with Dr. Pohl and Dr. Teal, who have already reviewed the scope of work as well. So you should know that. And that is absolutely the intent, to have that expertise brought to bear.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions?
I was just looking at task number 6, and I understand that Stantec will be providing the presentation, draft agendas and all that support. Who's gonna be, or what jurisdiction is gonna be taking the lead actually scheduling those public meetings?
We will, Washoe County will.
Okay.
But we'll do that in collaboration, make sure everybody else is part of that process.
Any other questions?
Your Chairman, did you want to reach out, and see if you guys have any questions from your side?
Chairman Whitmer with the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. Are there any, is there any discussion on this agenda item? Seeing none? All right, looking for a motion? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't hear any discussion on this item for the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission, so we'd like to hear a motion.
This is a very important effort that, as Dwayne stated, it really affects all of us, and it's an opportunity to get out ahead of an issue rather than being reactive to an issue. So Tumwa is fully supportive of this effort, and with that, I will move forward a recommendation to the Western Regional Water Commission for approval and funding of a professional services agreement with Stantec for services outlined in Cold Springs Water Balance Analysis Proposal and Funding not to exceed $124,698 from the Regional Water Management Fund, and a project completion date of June 30th, 2025.
Second. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous decision.
Okay, for WRWC members, I'd like to open it up for any further questions. And with that, do we have a motion?
Is outlined in the staff report held. I'll second Andriola.
So we have a motion made by member Hill, second by Andriola. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay. Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to number 8, report discussion, possible direction to staff concerning the results of the NNWPC annual priorities setting workshop held on October 4th.
2023 to prioritize projects and studies for fiscal year 2025.
I'm gonna give us a second, see if we can bring the presentation up, and then I'm gonna go really guilty if it comes up for mine and it didn't come up for Director Smith. And it is, so my apologies to Director Smith.
I'm a little relieved.
Kim Ricky for the record, members of the commission, thank you so much for being here today and being so gracious with some of our technical issues today, getting the meeting started and bringing people into the building. We appreciate your patience with us. So on this agenda item, this is really the purpose of this meeting today is to bring the commissions together and talk about how we develop our priorities, how the Water Planning Commission ranks those priorities, and then how that informs the budget process. And so I wanted to start with a little, what is the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission Priorities Workshop? And why do we hold it? And essentially, the directors and the members of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission all work together regionally to implement the comprehensive regional water management plan. And that plan presents in the action plan all the different water planning issues and solutions and projects and priorities that they have put in place to implement that plan. And so what the directors do for the Water Planning Commission is they work with their staff, they come up with the projects that they think are priorities for that year. They bring them to WRWC staff. We have a few projects of our own that we present depending on, the input that we've heard from the Western Regional Water Commission or the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. And we put together a list of those projects for the Water Planning Commission to affirm, first of all, that those are priorities for that year, but then also rank those projects so that when we look at the overall budget, if there is sufficient budget to fund them all, of course, we'll fund them all. If there's not sufficient budget to fund them all, we can use that ranking as a system to look at, well, what should we be funding and how much should we be funding for each project? This particular year, we had plenty of funding with the regional water management. We don't see a problem with funding all the projects. So it was really an affirmation of the projects. We still went through the exercise of ranking the projects. And so if you could go to the next slide, please. So this is what it looks like. So my staff works really hard to prepare for this workshop with the Water Planning Commission to make it efficient and run smoothly in the meeting. And they do a really good job of that. And we developed a online survey poll that has all the projects listed, a synopsis of what that project is, and the budget amount for that project. And we asked each of the Water Planning Commission members to rank that project on a scale of 1 to 5, somewhat like you would a hotel rating on Yelp. And the 1 to 5 rating is essentially, if you score it a 1, all of our priorities are important. So we risk, we don't want to say that if it gets a score of a 1, it's not an important project. We're just looking at, in comparison to the other projects on the list, would that project need full funding if we had budget issues this year? Or is it on the 5 scale where we need to fund that project fully for that year? So we have them rank each of the projects, and you'll see in your board packet under item 8B, the full list of projects that they rank. And once they digitally rank that, we give them a link and they digitally rank that in the meeting. Then we tally that score digitally and import it into an Excel worksheet where they can see how the projects rank highest to lowest score. And if there, like I said before, if there was a challenge with having sufficient budget, we would then have a discussion on, how they wanted to fund those projects. This year, we didn't have to do that. There's plenty of budget to fund all the projects. Jen, next slide. Then what we do is we take all those projects and all those budgets and we import it into our professional services budget detail for that fiscal year, which is fiscal year 25 that we're planning for. And you'll see that in item 8A, page 1 of your agenda packet. So the total for all the proposed projects this year is 1.475 million. You'll see a couple of the items have a TBD attached to them, and that's a to be determined budget. And for those projects, primarily, we haven't developed a scope of work or a budget for that project. It might be a concept project or something that's currently under development, and that budget will be prepared hopefully in that fiscal year. We also put to be determined for the contingency fund, because we'll include that in the budget when we submit it in March for your review. We want to get a feel for what is our cash balance in the budget at that point, and versus what our overall budget, not just the professional services budget detail, but our operating budget and staff services. And then we take that balance of what we have left in the cash balance and we put it into the contingency fund for projects. So that'll be a to be determined until we get to that point. So for now, this is the proposed draft tentative professional services budget detail. This is strictly just for our projects. And so what I want to do is open it up and just say, you know, what we're looking for from both commissions today is to ensure that both the WRWC and the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission members have an opportunity, if they have questions about projects, to be here to answer those questions, give any direction to staff if there's any result of those conversations where we need to make adjustments to the budget or if there's project concerns. And really, really move forward with informing the fiscal year 25 tentative budget. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to turn the time back over to the commission. If there's any questions on the projects, if there's any discussion or direction to staff.
Sure. And before we get started, I'd just like to recognize that Chair Dewar is here. And I would like to turn over the gavel to her.
Sure. Well, let me thank you for running the meeting and let me apologize to everyone. I know John was just downstairs too. Our workshop on housing has run long and I'm sorry I had to be here a little bit late today. So you asked us to open the discussion on the different projects for prioritization, right? And I guess I'll ask, and are you taking this group by group or are we just whoever wants to speak? We have a joint meeting, so.
Yeah, I would think that's up to both of the chairs of the commission.
Well, I'm fine for anyone who would like to address it, to speak whenever you want to. So who would like to begin? Anyone? Would you like to advocate for any project to be on this list? That's the question. Well, Member Hill.
I, since all the projects got on this, right?
Right.
I just want to make sure, because I saw the Council water usage review was ranked low, but I just want to make sure, so like, I know it ranked low, but theoretically, hopefully we'll have the budget as we move forward with these things. So I just wanted to throw out my support for that project. And I just was wondering on the sorry, One Truckee River. It doesn't really go into detail about what that will look like, what they are doing. I know they do great work. I'm just curious if there's anything specifically if we're looking at more restroom facilities or plan implementation. So it's just planning work for them.
Sure. Good afternoon, chairs, council members. Birgit Whittaker for the record. One Truckee River through this project is proposing to actually continue to implement their river-friendly landscaping outreach program. They are also seeking funding to help fund their projects. There is no restroom project in this project specifically. There are other projects funded by other sources that they are considering for that. And we've also asked them to look at preparing projects to be ready for funding as various funding sources come up.
And come to us as a board, or when you're asking them to do that, would it?
Those projects would then have to seek additional funding outside of this project. So it likely would not be WRWC funding, it would be federal funding as that money came up and is available.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Pro or con on any of the projects? I'll ask a question. So you may have addressed this already. Is there money to fund each of these projects or are some going to fall off the list?
That are gonna fall. We anticipate having.
You think you could do enough, but you have enough. And then just on the first couple, I wanted to just ask, NW, is it two? NWII? Okay, could you just tell us what those two projects are? Regional Water Management Coordination. I mean,
Yes.
I think that's what we're doing here, but.
Yeah, the Nevada Water Innovation Institute is an institute within UNR. So these
Right.
are our two contracts with UNR. The Regional Water Management Coordination is essentially their technical support for all things effluent management and advanced purified water. So they're basically providing leadership for the regional partners in that effort. And so that has a lot of tasks. I can pull up that scope of work if we need to. They also do the enhanced source control. We presented that at a couple of the most recent meetings where they're helping us to provide technical assistance to the regional partners for Tumwater, South Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, Tumwater, Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, and Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility Reservoir on doing some sampling to get a baseline for the source water that comes from the equipment plant so that we can make sure that the advanced purified water goals and objectives for water quality to do that.
Okay, great. And then is the one that's titled Data Instincts One Water also same? It's not called NWII, but
Yeah,
it's still under the One Water umbrella.
Yes, it's under the One Water umbrella. They're a private consulting firm that is assisting the regional partners with the communication plan for
Right.
the advanced purified water projects.
And which group is that?
Data Instincts, I can't remember whether they're
Is there
at
other-
Windsor. They're out of Windsor, California. And Mark Milan, you've
Oh,
heard him
Mark.
present.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I want.
Yeah,
Okay, and I wanted to put a pitch in for the PFAS. I don't know how many people got to attend the, we have a water subcommittee of the city council that's focused on North Valleys, specifically Swan Lake, but everything around there. And the consultant that you hired came and gave a very comprehensive presentation in the limited time that they had. And it really helped move the dialogue forward. Increase understanding of PFAS, what it is, what it isn't, how we can begin to address it. And so I wanted to put in a pitch. I mean, you're being able to fund everything, but I saw it real life, what they did and how having good, accurate information changed the conversation. And I think that's very important that we're all working off the same information and template and being able to make decisions moving forward. I could put a pitch in for almost every single project here because I've become familiar with them. So I'm very pleased. I did want to mention this last one or one of the last ones, Steamboat Ditch Flood Evaluation. I wanted to make sure I understood. So a while back, I think most people within 2 years ago, Steamboat Ditch came forward with a project with the NRCS to look at conservation, water loss, plant materials around Steamboat, etc. What it didn't focus on so it was very focused on what the Steamboat Ditch owners cared about, right? Which is conserving water. What it didn't focus on was what the larger community cared about Steamboat Ditch, because most people in Reno area and the county don't have water rights, don't participate in Steamboat Ditch. What they do is they appreciate the vegetation that comes from the inefficient water transportation program. In other words, we don't have lined ditches. There's a lot of water infiltration, therefore lots of plants grow up. And it makes it a great place to walk, right? So there's a Steamboat Ditch trail that crosses properties. I was really sorry to see the project go away because it was going to bring millions of dollars to our community for improved water management. And I really thought that the project focus could have been enlarged to deal with not just water conservation, but how to make this a more of a community asset. So this particular project is the second phase, the one listed here, is just on flooding, right? And I'm not really sure what Steamboat Ditch flooding looks like. Right, I haven't, other than we have inflows of water runoff from adjacent land, filling up Steamboat, tipping over into Last Chance Ditch, tipping over into Lake Ditch, causing flooding that way. Is that the focus of this project?
you know what? That would be a great question.
Yeah,
I
again,
hate to put you on the spot, but I know that you recently.
maybe I can help answer a little
Yeah.
bit. Other people here that might have some information as well, but yes, again, for the record, Dwayne Smith, Washoe County. Chair, this project is a second phase to capitalize on the work of understanding how we might implement actual physical projects in certain areas along the ditch alignment that are historically and consistently causing flooding and impacts to residents, to infrastructure, et cetera. So this is actually taking the work to the next level of saying, in this area, these are those impacts. This is what's the cause of that. What are some of the things that can be done? Can these be openings built into into the ditch itself that allows water to go back into more historical areas? Are there equalization or basins that can be built to help moderate some of the flows? So it's taking it to that next level to address those.
And is the flooding from what I was saying, overland flow and then having overflow into other ditches and other ditches still it's overflowing generally, or is there something else?
That is the predominant outcome of the work. It shows that all of the undeveloped areas, the interception of those natural drainages, that overland flow that enters that ditch environment. Remember, the ditch wasn't designed for that,
Right.
and certainly the area wasn't developed when the ditch was built. And so that's where that has focused. Based on that are some of these recommendations that we need to take to that next level so that we can help protect the kids.
Well, I know in Reno, there was a proposal, for example, on the lake ditch to do what you're talking about on Steamboat. We didn't move forward, right, Don? Remember, there was gonna be like an overflow and direct some of the flow from Lake Ditch over to Virginia Lake, over to Cochrane Ditch to reduce flooding on the residences. But we didn't move forward with that project, and I'm not sure totally why. But anyway, it's something similar, it sounds like.
I think this all leads to its
Starting point, yeah.
Work done will help us then perform us for the drainage if you want to direct water to versus where we want to carry water.
Well, as a city council person, this is has a big impact on huge neighborhoods that are in my ward. That get flooded, and also in other wards, Ward 1 as well. So, I'm glad to see it on the list. So thanks for identifying. So anyone else like to speak in favor or yes, John?
I just want to point out one other project, the Environmental Incentives Water Quality Credit Program. I want to bring that one out just because the importance of this to our region is if we can identify where pollutant loading is going into the Truckee River, and we can do a project that would mitigate, reduce that, being able to identify what that loading is and what the benefit of that project is, will also help us identify potential funding sources for improvements. For instance, if there's a loading going to the Truckee River currently of nitrogen from, say, septic tanks, and that is entering in the Truckee River, and we go in and do a septic to sewer conversion, we could actually potentially get credit back at the treatment plant for Tumwater. That would allow us to then, it's like getting an upgrade at the plant. So then we have a funding source that makes sense for us to do that.
Which one is that on this list? What name does it go by?
It's environmental incentive about midway down, just below midway down the page. Environmental incentives, water quality credit program, $100,000. So again, I know that-
SWPCC, Water Quality
just above-
Credit Program.
just above that.
Just above it is One Truckee River Plan Implementation.
I'm sorry, I thought you were on the.
Yeah. On this one, it is SWPCC water.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on this
Okay.
page.
Okay, sorry.
I was on this page.
Okay, so it's
Well,
called
it's-
here SWPCC Water Quality Credit Program.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Well, it's exciting that all of these projects can be covered, kind of amazing. I don't know how you guys made that happen, but let me just ask, are there any further advocacy for any of these projects? I mean, clearly we can do them all, so I don't know that there's a reason to take it off the list. Ms. Garcia?
Thank you. Mine's more of a procedural question. So I know you had your annual workshop on October 4th and you had this mechanism to vote and prioritize. Did anything come to the top on the very last one, which was like an additional priority? Did the group come forward with anything on that one?
What's interesting is I have to put that in the survey to kind of, if something comes out of discussion from the meeting and no additional priorities came out in discussion at the time. So I ended up having to take that off during the voting so that it didn't impact the total scores.
And then I didn't see in the staff report, how many people actually participated in the workshop and voting?
9.
9 total? Thank you.
So you need some action from us individually, each group, or no?
I don't necessarily need action. I just keep an action item in case there's something that the board, the commission wanted to give me direction on. But as long as there's no direction to staff on the budget or projects or any changes, then we can move forward with developing that budget and bringing that back for your review and approval.
Okay. So you were really just looking for our input right now, but we would vote on this at a later WRWC meeting.
Yeah, you'll approve it in the budget.
Okay. Any final questions before we close this item out? Mr. Anderson?
No, not a question. I just want to say thank you to all of you on Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission for the work that was done on this. A lot of thought went into it, so I appreciate your time and effort.
Does NNWPC need to vote on this today at all? Yeah. Okay. All right, well, we'll close out this item E and we'll move on to 9, which is back to Kim as the program manager report.
Okay. So this is more, it might be informative for the Western Regional Water Commission, but this is actually a report that I do for the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission quarterly. I do annual financials with the Western Regional, but we run the budget, quarterly revenues and expenses by the Water Planning Commission so that they can kind of keep on track of the projects and how much is being spent and where we're at throughout the year. So the first item 9A is really a list of all the projects from this year. So you'll see some of them that have, you saw on the last budget or the professional services detail. These are continuing projects. If you see them on the next one, it's because they're continuing forward. They're multi-year projects that we're going to be continuing to fund. So you'll see what the budget column is essentially what is the carry forward from fiscal year 23 plus what we budgeted for them in this fiscal year. And the invoice column is how much they've spent this year. So you'll see we're in the first quarter, so there's not a lot of activity. We may not have received invoices from different agencies depending on their public processes for processing those invoices. And then the balance, and then there's comments in the final column, and that's really for us to give the Water Planning Commission members an idea of where those projects are at. So, do you want to go to the next slide? And so this is our revenue and expense report. It's L9B in your packet. And this is to just inform the Water Planning Commission members of, the overall budget. It includes the operating budget as well, not just the projects, where we're at with expenditures, and give them a quarterly snapshot of the budget. So we currently have a balance of over $2 million in our regional water management funds. And everything seems on track. We haven't spent a lot this first quarter, so there's nothing real significant to highlight. I just wanted to make sure you guys got a copy of the report and let Western Regional know that we do present this to our Water Planning Commission on a quarterly basis. And with that, I'll turn it over to the commission for questions and comments.
Well, Western Regional Water Commission, any questions or comments?
For me.
Okay, how about our Northern Nevada?
Questions? None.
None, okay. All right, well, thank you, Kim, for that item. We're gonna close that item out and move on to 10. And this is about possible direction to staff. It's regarding future agenda items. So have you heard of it?
Thank you. I have not heard of any. And what I thought was you could, based on seeing the projects and based on the discussions, there might be existing projects that you might be interested in doing presentations on. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you. We were trying to do a couple of project presentations for both boards each time we have a meeting so that you're well aware of what those projects are accomplishing and they do have regional significance. We don't have any pressing items for December. It's the holidays. I don't typically hold meetings in December. So if it's okay with the boards, the next WRWC meeting would be on January 17th. And then I also wanted to let the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission know this January meeting also falls on New Year's week. A lot of folks are out on vacation for the holidays. We don't really have any pressing items for that meeting either. And we could resume the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission meetings in February, unless the members of the commission feel like there's something to be dealt with at that meeting. So I would turn it over to the commission for input on.
Well, question. So I have on my calendar that we are to have a meeting on November 15th. And what you're saying is we would not.
That meeting is being canceled, I apologize.
Okay,
Yeah, that
that's
meeting.
great. It probably was. We transitioned to calendar programs, and so something that carried over into another program right now. It's been a little bit confusing month, but we're getting through. But I know that Tumwa canceled their meeting for that day. At least that was the message I got. I didn't hear from Tumwa, so no Tumwa meeting, no Western Regional meeting on either the 15th or the 16th, because Tumwa had shifted to the 16th, the conflict with the Reno City Council meeting, and it looks like that's canceled, so I think we're cleared out. And then no meeting in December, you're saying, is, just so I know, do we have a Tumwa meeting in December? Does anyone know?
Yes.
Okay, and I have that on, actually, it's not on. Does anyone know what day that is? Is it on the 14th? Yeah, okay, it is.
And it will be held at the Washoe County Chambers.
Washoe County Chambers, that's the port change. Okay. Okay. Very cool. All right, well, we're gonna close out, 10, unless there's some additional suggestions. And we'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment?
No. Sorry, I was checking my emails. to make sure I
Okay.
didn't get anything.
Okay,
I just wanted to make sure.
Madam Chair, if the Water Planning Commission members are okay with the schedule as well.
Well, I do have a question, is
sure.
clarification, there, our next meeting of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission would be the first Wednesday in February.
February 7th.
I didn't ask if anyone has an issue with that.
I didn't see where we were agendized to discuss that, so we only have the WRWC.
It's true.
That I apologize, that is special area code.
Well, consider it informative, if not determinative, okay. All right, so just to recap, we're on public comment. Do we have any public
None.
comment?
Sorry, I checked mine.
All right, we're on to commission comments, and that would be for both. Is there any commissioner from either board? Yes, Ms. Phil.
Thank you. I just want to commend Casey because I don't know if everyone knows that you're a member of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission, received Graduate Alumnus of the Year from UNR, and it was a really great award ceremony. So congratulations. Yeah.
Cool. Any other commission comments? Can you top that?
He's got like 10 other awards.
Rack them up.
Yeah, we can report those.
Okay. Any staff comments? None to item 13. No? Okay, we're about to close out the meeting, so any final comments from anybody? All right, with that, we are adjourned.